Greetings, everyone. So, I am Heidi H. Qualquera, and our group will report the following. The first one is validity and reliability of the instrument, data collection, and lastly, statistical analysis. So, first, we have here establishing validity and reliability of an instrument. So, instrument means a general term that the researchers use for measurement device. So, from that word, this is when researchers use when measuring a measurement. So, this is the measurement device that the researchers used. While on the other hand, validity is what we supposed to measure. So we have types of validity. We have content, construct, and criterion validity. So now we will first discuss what is content validity. So content validity assesses whether a test is representative of all aspects of the construct. For the example we have here, a researcher conducts an experiment to study the impact of exercise frequency on mental focus in college students. So when we say content validity, kani siya gina-check ni siya by panel or experts. Then sa tuang example, since naatay exercise frequency o mental focus sa college student, para ma-ensure na to ang validity, yung content validity, kailangan na to og expert review. So from this, kay dapat naka-review na siya sa expert sa katong nga field, specifically sa exercise o ganing mental focus. When we say mental focus, na diri related diri si cognitive performances. Basta mag-involve siya og kana ganing concentration sa isa ka butang. Karon mag-pilot testing na pud ta. So diri sa pilot testing, of course ang atong population diri kay college students. Kay mo may naka-provide sa atong examples. So karon mag-gather ta og kanang sample of students para ma-ensure na to ang clarity. So after nila mag pilot testing sa kato nga questionnaire, kay bali ang ilang feedback mo to tong gamiton para ma-revise nato or mahawa nato tong mga irrelevant items sa kato nga questionnaire. Next is we have here construct validity is the concept that cannot be directly observed, such as intelligence, emotional states, or health-related quality of life. So, here is an example. A researcher asks people about their daily food intake through a questionnaire to study its impact on their body weight. Since cannot be directly observed, so nakabase ta sa health-related quality of life since daily food intake man og body weight. So ato ang instrument nga atong gamiton questionnaire. Para ma-ensure nato ang iyang validity, of course, kailangan nato i-define kung unsa nga atong i-measure. Kung unsa to siya nga food intake, unsa to yung ginakaon daily. Either prutas ba to siya, vegetables ba to siya, or after nato, diri sa body weight, of course, kailangan dapat appropriate ang body weight sa isa ka tao. And kailangan po nato i-consider ang ilahang metabolism. Like, for example, ilang metabolism kay paspas kaayo. So, of course, bisan pag unsa kadagan ng ilang ginakaon daily, since paspas man ang ilang metabolism, dali na siya magaling. So, ang ilang body weight kay payat. So, isa po ni sa factor nga dapat bantayan. So, last, criterion validity. So, the result should correspond to a different test of the same thing. Test it multiple times, and then the result is still the same. So, that's considered as criterion validity. So, an example here is that a researcher grows plants under different light conditions and measures how tall they grow over time. So, to ensure its validity, para ma-measure nato ang height sa plant, of course, kailangan nato mga measuring materials like ruler or measuring tape. Para accurate, dapat manggod accurate ang measurements sa height sa plant. And then, second is, consider the time frame. Sa pag-measure nato, kailangan dapat na ay time o date kung kanus-an nato siya gi-measure. Kay naay same og measurement tapos pagkahuman wala nimo gibutangan og date og time. In that case, since nalibog naman ka, so kato nga measurement is invalid na to, inaccurate na to. dili na siya masaligan since ikaw gani naglibog tapos how about ang uban nga magtan-aw sa katong measurement, so of course malibog pud sila. So replicate the study. So dili ato akong giingon ganina no nga even if atuwa siyang i-test again and again, so ang result kay dapat the same lang gihapon. So diri sa replicate the study, so pag makita nato nga consistent ang iyang result, walay kausaban, walay kalahian. So sa pag-repeat nato sa experimentation o pag-compare nato sa measurement, if consistent gud siya, walay nausab, so na-insured na ang katong iyang validity. So pasok siya sa criterion validity.
Good day everyone, I am Jensifay T. Mapoy from grade 12 Edison. So now let us proceed to the next topic, which is instrument reliability. From the word reliable, it is able to be trusted, predictable, or dependable. So what is instrument reliability? Instrument reliability defined as the extent to which an instrument consistently measures what it is supposed to. So it tells you how consistently a method measures something. When you apply the same method to the same sample under the same conditions, you should get the same results. If not, the method of measurement may be unreliable or biased into your research. The four main types of reliability. First, test, retest reliability. Second, iterative reliability. Third, parallel forms reliability. And the last one, internal consistency reliability. Test, retest reliability is it measures the consistency of the same test over time. When you repeat the same test on the same sample at a different point in time, you use it when you are measuring something that you expect to stay constant in your sample. For example, a psychologist gives a standardized IQ test to a group of children. So intahay nag-administer or naghatag ang psychologist og the same test or the same sample sa the same group of people in different point of time, like intahay katong October 1 tapos 2 months ang gap, nibalik sila pagka December 1 tapos wala nag-observe sila, ang test kay consistent or kanang same gihapon ang test nga nadawat nila nga result. Inter-rater reliability is it measures the consistency of the same test conducted by different people. So inter-rater reliability, also called inter-observer reliability, measures the degree of agreement between different people observing or assessing the same thing. You use it when data is collected by researchers assigning ratings, scores, or categories to one or more variables, and it can help lessen observer bias. For example, a team of researchers observed the progress of wound healing in patients. So, para ma-measure ang inter-rater reliability, ang lahi-lahi nga researchers nag-conduct og the same measurement or observation sa pareha nga sample. To record the stages of healing, rating scales are used with a set of criteria to assess various aspects of wounds. Tapos, ilang calculate ang correlation between their different sets sa result, like ilang i-compare ang ilang mga na-observe. Tapos kapag ang tanan nga researchers nagatag mga pares-parehas nga mga ratings, possible nga ang test kay consistent o reliable jud siya. Parallel forms reliability, it measures the consistency of different versions of a test which are designed to be equivalent. You use it when you have two different assessment tools or sets of questions designed to measure the same thing. For example, a set of questions is formulated to measure pain relief medications in a group of respondents. So, ang mga questions kay randomly gi-divide into two sets. while ang respondents kay randomly gi-divide sad og into two groups. So ang pareha nga groups kay mag-take sila og same nga test. Like ang group A mag-take og test A una, unya ang group B sad kay mag-take og test B una. Then vice versa. Unya if kanang i-compare ang duha ka test, unya ang result kay hapit or almost identical, parehas lang ilang mga answers, kay it is possible na reliable ang test. Internal consistency. It assesses how consistently the items in a test measure the same construct. The correlation between multiple items in a test that are intended to measure. You can calculate internal consistency without repeating the test or involving other researchers. So it's a good way of assessing reliability when you only have one data set. For example, a group of respondents are presented with a set of statements designed to measure optimistic and pessimistic mindsets. So, kato nga mga respondents kay mag-rate sila agreement or kasabutan nga ang bawat statement naga-scale from 1 to 5. Kung kana nga test kay internally consistent, ang optimistic respondent kay magatag sila high ratings general sa optimism indicators o low ratings sa pessimism indicators. So if i-calculate the correlation between all the responses to the optimistic statements, pero ang correlation is very weak. This suggests that the test has low internal consistency. Cronbach's alpha is a way of assessing reliability by comparing the amount of shared variance or covariance among the items making up an instrument to the amount of overall variance. Diri na to makita kung reliable ba jud ang atong gibuhat if atong i-calculate sa Excel. So, nadari ang number, coefficient of Cronbach's alpha, and the reliability level. So, number 1, more than 0.90, excellent siya. Number 2, 0.80 to 0.89, good. Number 3, 0.70 to 0.79, acceptable. Number 4, 0.6 to 0.69, questionable. Number 5, 0.5 to 0.59, poor. Number 6, less than 0.59, unacceptable.
Good day, everyone. My name is Ella, and now let's proceed to our next topic, which is the data collection. So, when we say data collection, what comes on your mind? So, data collection is a way of directly measuring variables and gathering information. It allows you to gain first-hand knowledge and original insights into your research problem. Because as we know, research data are very important in order for us to produce the original results of our study and also validate our research findings. So of course, it involves identifying what kind of data is needed and choose methods to gather it. So we only included 4 methods. So we have the surveys, interviews, observation, and experiment. So before Tama proceed, Anna, let me introduce you to the 2 data sets. So we have primary data and secondary data. So first, we have the primary data. So primary data is the information collected directly by the researchers for a specific purpose, usually through first-hand methods. So it typically comes from first-hand methods like surveys, interviews, observations, or experiment, making the data unique and relevant to the specific study. In other words, it's data gathered personally, not sourced from existing materials.
So next is the secondary data. So what is secondary data? Data refers to data that is collected by someone other than the primary user. Common sources of secondary data for social science include censuses, information collected by government departments, organizational records, and data that was originally collected for other research purposes. So the example of secondary data are textbooks and research journals, internet search data. Later on, I will expound what these examples are.
So now let's proceed to the four methods that I've mentioned earlier. We have survey, observation, interview, and experiment. So first we have survey. So a survey is when people are asked questions to learn their thoughts or opinions about something. It helps gather information from many people. So ang survey kay usually close-ended survey or questionnaires with a limited number of close-ended questions and rating scales used to generate numerical data. So when we say close-ended questions, this refers to any questions in which the respondent were provided with options para sa iyang answer. So same sa katong survey sa grade 12 last year where na sila gipa-answeran sa ato, right? So, of course, survey can be done face-to-face or through phone, particularly online. Pero mostly, face-to-face to siya ginabuhat. So, how is it primary if it's done online? So, we are living now in a modernized world where karon gagamit na tao gadgets or internet for everything. We have applications like Google where we can do our online surveys. And isa pa, as long as the person na gusto mo survey can nag-answer sa mga questions or survey, so it is still considered as primary because it came from that person. Observation. So observation is a method of collecting data by watching and recording behaviors, events, or conditions as they happen. So it involves gathering information directly through the senses without asking questions. So observing is also primary data since you're observing, so syempre makita dyan mo siya dayon, so it is first hand. So natay tulo ka types sa observation, which is ang participant observation, non-participant observation, and mechanical observation. So first dirita sa participant observation. So it is where the researcher takes part in an actions of group. For example, sa isa ka tribe diri sa Sama, specifically sa atong Sama tribe, we nga researchers kay mag-interact sa ilaha while observing, could be taking notes or what. So we have the non-participant observation where the researchers doesn't interact with the one who is being observed. So kunyari sa tribe, mag-watch and mag-observe lang sila sa behavior without engaging with the participants. So before to proceed sa ikatulo, na ano ko gusto i-add? So both of these observations can be conducted overtly and covertly. When we say overtly, where those being observed kay aware nga na ang researcher, and covertly, where those being observed kay dili aware nga gina-observahan day sila. So now let's proceed to the last sa observation. We have the mechanical observation, which is yes, kani siya mahulog ni siya nga overtly and covertly since this type of observation uses camera, phones, recorder, and more. So mahulog siya nga overtly or covertly because you can record or take video of those being observed with them knowing nga ing ana de ay, and covertly can be applied to those people that are hard to reach or to approach, like atong tribe sa India, example lang, nga dili gapasulod og foreigners.
So, interview is like a conversation where you ask and answer questions. It's often used to learn more about someone, their skills, or their thoughts on a particular topic. During an interview, you usually take turns asking and answering questions. It's important to be clear, honest, and respectful. So, for example, is like, ikaw nga usa ka researcher, mangita kag respondent kay mong interviewhon, and muhatag ka sa iyang question, and siya naman kay ang mo-answer sa imong question. Like, ang imong question is, like, dili na siya scripted. Like, open-minded question na siya nga imong i-ask sa imuhang respondent. And siya, imuhatag sa imuhang answer. Next is the unstructured interview. An interview with no set questions allowing for a free-flowing conversation. So, for example, a talk show interview where the host ask questions based on the guest responses. So kanang mga talk show no, like first kay mag-ask sila, and kung unsa tong gitubag sa ilahang guest kay mangutana pud na pud sila based sa katong gitubag sa ilahang guest. So mao na siya ang unstructured interview, like free flowing conversation. Next is the semi-structured interview. An interview with some planned questions but also allows for follow-up questions. For example, a researcher asks a few key questions but adjusts based on the answers given. So kunyari kanang sa research defense, naman jud tay mga panelists ana nga mag-ask ato og questions after nato i-defense ang ato ang or after nato i-perform ang ato ang research paper. Then habang ga as first kay habang ga as lag question kung unsa ilang imong itubag kay mag-ask na pud sila based sa imuhang gitubag. Mao na siya ang kanang semi-structured interview. So, let's review the three parts of interview. The structured is an interview with set questions that do not change. The unstructured interview is an interview with no set questions, allowing for a free-flowing conversation. And the last is semi-structured interview, an interview with some planned questions but also allows for follow-up questions.
Last but not the least, we have experiment. So an experiment in primary data is when a researcher gathers new information by testing or observing something directly. So this data is original and comes from the researcher's own work, like doing tests in a lab or watching changes in the real world. So it is used to answer specific questions. So, an experiment in primary data, para siya sa mo study sa may seats. So, it means gathering your information by testing and observing directly. So, in our research, we collect samples from different places and watch them over mga pila ka weeks. So, for now, mga ano pa meron, mga 1 week pa. So, by using moist chamber method, we help mycomycetes grow so we can see them better and identify different types. So it gives us original data as we look at and describe the kinds of mycomycetes we find. So this helps us answer specific questions about sa ilahang diversity, where they live, and how they contribute to our environment.
So let's proceed to the sources of secondary data. So we have two types of secondary data, the internal source and external source. The internal source is data comes from within the organization, generated through its own operations. So for example, like sales records, employee data, in-house reports, and etc. While the external source, data is collected from outside the organization coming from third parties or external entities. For example, like government reports, industry publications, market research, studies, and etc.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Lian Juvinson Falverico, and I'm going to present to you the data analysis using statistics and hypothesis testing. So, our objective this video is to tackle the related samples or independent samples, assumption about the test, frequently used inferential statistics in scientific research, and variable type. So next, the first slide I'm going to present is related or independent samples. The independent samples, the probability of selection of sample is in one group is not affected by the selection in the other group. Meaning, dili siya matarog if ang imong nagamit nga variable. And sa non-parametric test, when the assumptions or the parametric test are questionable data, like this is the related samples or the related text, like that. The next is the frequently used inferential statistics. So we have four inferential statistics in scientific research. We have z-test, t-test, one-way, and two-way ANOVA. Z-test is the larger group of people or sample that you can exert in the test. Then the t-test is the smaller group or the smallest group that you can exert the variance or the mean or alpha of that group. Then the one-way or two-way ANOVA is the more The more samples you have is the if you have three or more samples, then you can use one way or two way ANOVA. And then the steps in hypothesis testing is state the problem, then formulate your hypothesis, then specify the level of significance or the alpha, either be a 1% or 5%. Then identify the appropriate test, either Z test, the test, one way or two way ANOVA. Then compute the statistics or run the test. That's all.